It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Jackson Holzer of Locked On Syracuse is here because the Orange, Jackson, have gone out and added Jonte Cook, a former five-star wide receiver who was at Texas and then was at Washington, did not take a snap, not even in the spring game for the Huskies because of off-the-field matters. And following the departure of Trevor Pena to Penn State, this appears to be the backfilling option. So let's start with the non-football stuff, and we'll get to the on the field impact here. Were you surprised that someone with a bit of a checkered past was brought into Syracuse?
I was at first, and then the more I thought about it, not really. Because I feel like if anyone is going to be someone that can lead an attitude adjustment, I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but I think you kind of understand what I'm saying here. Get your head back in the right headspace. Focus on football, no nonsense. It's Fran Brown. You got to figure that he is maybe the coach that could unlock Jonte Cook's potential. So I understand he's got the off-field concerns. I wouldn't say any of his arrests or anything like that are unforgivable, if that makes you feel any better. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize his crimes. What I'm trying to tell you is he didn't kill anyone. It's not an unforgivable mistake or mistakes that he has made. I think he deserves another chance, and we'll just see what happens. And if Fran Brown can't correct his behavior, I don't know if anyone can.
I think the other angle that you look at this, if you're a coaching staff, is okay. We're clearly bringing in a guy that has not been able to find his way. But what are we here to do as coaches? We're not just football coaches for the guys on the field, but you hear a lot of coaches talk, and you know what? For some of them, it's just coach speak and just pandering to donors and parents and all that sort of stuff. But you have a lot of guys out there, a lot, and I would say most, quite frankly, who genuinely look at the opportunity to be a football coach and say, I want to take these young guys and make them better versions of themselves, the best versions of themselves, and prepare them to go out and have a successful life, whether that involves football or not. I think that's the other angle of it. I think you would really have to internally believe that sort of stuff if you are Fran Brown, because Syracuse has some other talented players on the roster. There was certainly a bit of a need when Trevor Pena left, but I think that you have to be really confident that you can foster that sort of relationship to where it doesn't disrupt your locker room, it doesn't disrupt your team, the position group, or anything like that, if you're willing to go out and bring them in, which obviously Syracuse did.
I think Nick Saban in a press conference there's a famous quote or a clip of him talking about a receiver for the Carolina Panthers. I think it's Musa Muhammad, and how he screwed up when he was in college, and he got disciplined because, discipline has to be a factor here. You make a mistake. I mean, you deserve discipline for it, right? Even on the field, you jump off sides, you deserve a 5-yard penalty. So, but in Nick Saban's talk or in his rant, he was saying, hey, wasn't going to kick him off the team. He had to learn from his mistake. And he ended up being right in the end because Musa Muhammad plays over a decade in the NFL and has a daughter that goes to Princeton. So I'm not going to sit here and try to be the judge of someone's character that A, I haven't met, and B, if Fran Brown's saying, hey, look, I believe I can turn him around, he's worth the risk. All right. I'm open. I'm open to it because he's an electrifying talent as well. We can't ignore that. I understand that he hasn't necessarily carved out a role yet in college football, but this guy's got 4.3 speed. He was a 5-star recruit in high school in 2023. We can't ignore the elephant in the room here because that also goes with second chances is how good are you? Mm-hmm. Are you a good player? Well, you'll get more chances. If you're not a good player, you might want to do something else. You get less chances, right? That's just how the world works sometimes. And with Jonte Cook, you can see the upside. You can see that he's got talent. You might as well take the risk here.
Yeah, the talent is pretty undeniable. He didn't crack the receiver rotation consistently at Texas. I am not privy to how the inner workings of the locker room were and whether it was a perfect fit across the board, but he was a big-time recruit coming out of high school, and it was a great get for Texas at the time because, man, this guy could be another one of those, more than gadget players in Steve Sarkisian's offense. Like a couple of years ago, what was it, this past season maybe, they had Silas Bolden from Oregon State. Yeah, they had this past year. Worthy. Yeah, Xavier Worthy. Yep. Those guys came in there and had all this production. It wasn't hard to see at the time how you could see Jonte Cook becoming the next great one. So for Syracuse, Jackson, do you expect him to come in and just take Trevor Pena's role and be one of the top 2 or 3 receivers on the Syracuse offense?
I think based on talent, yeah, because he's the most pure talent. That's the key here. Pure talent. He's the best receiver on the team. I don't even think it's close. There's not a single receiver on the team that's not his pedigree. Not even close. I mean, Emmanuel Ross was a 4-star wide receiver. Darrell Gill had a nice year last year where he actually led the ACC in yards per catch. So he's another guy who can stretch the field. Jonte Cook's a 5-star guy in 2023 who played at Texas. He's got to be one of the most talented players on Syracuse. Forget the wide receivers, on the team. But Brian Smith, I had him on Locked On Syracuse earlier last week, and he mentioned how it's hard to project where he's actually going to fit, at least early on in the season, because he got here in April. He didn't have any of those reps with Syracuse in the spring. So I wonder how he's going to look over the summer and if he can get up to speed quickly with the offense. And also keep in mind, Spencer, you're aware of this. Steve Angeli, their new quarterback, also got here in the spring. So yeah. It's going to be fascinating to see how the two can work together. Not only learn the offense, but build chemistry together as well. Oh, by the way, there's also a quarterback battle.
Yeah, the potential starting quarterback and potential leading receiver for the Orange came in after spring ball. That's a unique situation. I imagine those guys are getting together at the beach this summer and running some routes next to the ocean or something. Does it get warm enough in it? Well, yeah, it probably gets a little too warm at times.
It's hot in Syracuse in the summer.
Yeah.
It's hot. I've been there over so my first year in college was in 2020, so it was COVID. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because we got 1 hour of outside time a day when we had to quarantine. It wasn't fun. Not only because it was only 1 hour a day, but also because it was like 90 degrees outside.
Oh.
Okay, it's hot in the summer. I understand it gets freezing over the winter, but it's pretty nice. It's hot in the summer, so you can find a field. You can throw some passes because you know what, Spencer? You know who you're playing week 1?
Tennessee.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, their starting quarterback also just got there too.
Yeah.
You know what's the greatest thing about Fran Brown? Is that we're talking about Syracuse right now. Yeah. We don't ever before Fran Brown, would you really talk about Syracuse in May?
No, it never popped up on the show.
Nope. And guess what? If I was the host of Locked On Syracuse at the time, I don't know how much football I'd be talking about in May. But this is Fran Brown. I mean, he makes a move, and you're just like, this man did it again. Like, he's just going to make us talk about this. He knows what he's doing.
There's some to it, though. You know, he's not doing it the Deion Sanders way, but there's a Deion Sanders factor here.
It's a little more quiet than Deion Sanders.
Yeah,
and the only reason it's more quiet is because he's not the name brand of Deion Sanders.
Right. And I mean, he's somebody who seems very knowledgeable about what he wants to be, what he wants to establish, what he can accomplish as a head coach. And by the way, Syracuse just went 10-3 and knocked Miami out of the playoff. Are they that good this year? I don't think so. But is Fran Brown moving them in the right direction? It's kind of hard to argue otherwise. I'm more than a little interested to see how this all plays out. And the fun carousel of conversation of Steve Angeli leaves Notre Dame, he could go to Tennessee. He goes to Syracuse, Nico, UCLA. It's all just revolving around.
We're always there. It's just Always there. And that's something, that's probably the best thing so far that Fran Brown has done, to be honest with you. Forget the wins and loss. Hopefully he does even better than 10-3 going forward, because, that'd probably mean college football playoff and all that and ACC titles, but he just always has us in the conversation. We're talking about football here. In May, we're talking about Syracuse. They're more interesting than most teams in college football. I didn't say better. I said more interesting than most teams in college football. Yeah. You got a quarterback battle between a guy from LSU who couldn't see the field and a guy from Notre Dame who couldn't really get on the field. But when he got on the field, he was good. One guy got here in December. The other guy got here in April. We have no idea who's going to start. One of them's hurt, so that might be a factor. You're bringing in this really talented wide receiver in April while you're having this quarterback competition going on. Oh, by the way, this 5-star wide receiver has a checkered past.
Syracuse. Syracuse is fun. That's the only way to say it.
I'm having a blast here.
Syracuse is just fun. Jackson Holzer, Locked On Syracuse. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.